past episodes, and their links are in the description. So, before watching this episode, don't forget to check out the previous ones. This is a highly horror-packed web series with great IMDb ratings. If you also love mystery or sci-fi web series, make sure to subscribe to this channel. It's going to be very useful for you. So, let's dive straight into the story of episode 2. The story begins with Mayfair Gifford, who belongs to the Mayfair house. She's playing a card game and talking to someone on the phone. She mentions that things seem to be going wrong with the Mayfairs, and her cards keep showing signs of trouble. She asks the person on the phone if everything is okay at home. The person replies that all is fine. However, Gifford seems a bit confused and says she doesn't feel good about it. We also learn that Gifford hasn't been in this town for the past few weeks and has only recently returned. We then see Rowan in her house. She goes to the basement because she had locked Lasher inside. However, she finds that Lasher is no longer there. He has broken a window and escaped. Rowan doesn't know where he might have gone. Just then, she gets a call from her friend Lark, who works in a hospital. Lark tells her that he tested the blood sample she had sent but hasn't completed all the tests yet. He adds that the blood doesn't seem to be human. Rowan tells him not to stop the tests and to keep her updated with any findings. She then leaves the house, determined to find Lasher at any cost. Meanwhile, we see Lasher, who enters Gifford's house. Once inside, he begins to sniff the air, picking up Gifford's scent. Gifford was standing far away, but Lasher approaches her and starts talking to her. Gifford says, "I don't think I know you, but it feels like you're somehow familiar." Lasher responds, "The view here is stunning. Did you used to live here?" She replies, "No, this is my mom's house." She then invites him inside for a drink. As they sit together and drink, Lasher says, "There's a lovely fragrance coming from you." He struggles to control himself and finally blurts out, "I want to kiss you." Gifford responds, "I've been feeling the same." The two then kiss and become intimate. But after a short while, Gifford suddenly starts screaming. She's lost a significant amount of blood, and in that moment, she succumbs to her injuries and dies. Unbothered, Lasher goes to the fridge, takes out some milk, and drinks it before leaving the house. Elsewhere, we see Cortland, who appears to be trapped. He seems to have entered a completely different world. In this place, he sees a door, which he opens. Behind the door, Cortland finds his father, Julian. Cortland, appearing very young here, sees his father looking much older. Cortland feels as if he's in a dream. Julian, sitting at a table, is eating. He notices Cortland staring at him and says, "Why are you staring at my face? Serve me food." Cortland then starts serving food to his father. Rowan and Jojo are discussing their next move. Jojo suggests that Rowan's father knows the most about this situation, so she plans to bring him back from the statue. However, Jojo pleads, "Please don't do this. Don't bring my father back to life. We'll find another way to deal with or capture Lasher." Rowan agrees to this plan. They sit down for a meal, and Rowan mentions, "I waited outside all night for Lasher, but he didn't show up." Jojo reassures her, "He'll return soon." Jojo adds, "I've spoken with the board members, and they've agreed to let you stay here. I'm so happy about this." Just then, Jojo receives a call and learns that Gifford Mayfair has died. Rowan hears the news as well, and the two of them immediately head to Gifford's house. Upon arrival, Rowan notices that Gifford's death is eerily similar to Luz Mayfair's demise. She realizes this must be Lasher's doing. Using her powers, she attempts to track Lasher and follows his trail deep into the woods. As she walks through the forest, she calls out, "Lasher, where are you? I need to talk to you." She hears only his voice but doesn't see him. Lasher tells her, "Please close your eyes, and I'll appear in front of you." Rowan closes her eyes, and Lasher materializes right before her. Lasher begins, "I could smell something intoxicating from her. I thought Mayfairs were strong, but she wasn't." Rowan confronts him, "Did you kill another girl last night? Was she also a Mayfair?" Lasher responds, "I don't want to hurt anyone." Rowan tries to reason with him, "Come back home with me. Together we can figure this out." But Lasher accuses her, "You don't love me." Rowan replies, "I do love you, but not the way you want me to. We can go back to how things were. Please, come home with me." Lasher refuses to go with her. Frustrated, he pushes Rowan and tries to flee. Enraged, Rowan summons a bolt of lightning, setting the trees around them ablaze. Despite her powers, Lasher escapes. Determined to catch him, Rowan chases him, but fails to capture him. Lasher retreats to an abandoned house, injured and bleeding. As he tends to his wound, a bumblebee lands on his hand and begins to lap up his blood. The next morning, we see Sipin, who visits Arjuna. Arjuna is a healer capable of curing anyone. Sipin takes a small device from her and Arjuna says, "If you'd like, you can have coffee with me." He declines, replying, "I don't have the time." Arjuna then shows him her Bible and says, "Last night you sent me this Bible. You mentioned that perhaps it might help bring your memories back." Sipin responds, "No, my memories aren't lost anywhere. I've started working with eBridge now. I was afraid he'd capture me and erase all my memories, but he didn't. So now I don't need this Bible anymore." Arjuna looks at him and says, "But Albaith, the one whose memories you claim to have erased, never gets them back. Why did you store all your memories in this Bible then?" Sipin explains, "I put all my memories into this Bible so that if I ever touched it again, I'd regain them. But now, I don't need to. Arjuna questions him. If Ebrige is such a dangerous man, why are you working with him? Sipin replies, I can't do this alone. Besides, I don't trust Ebrige at all. We see Moira in her house, where her mother, Alicia, comes in. Alicia has music playing and says, come dance with me. But Moira replies, no, I can't dance with you. I have so much work to do. She then announces, I'm leaving now, and walks out. As she leaves, we discover that Cyper has been following Moira. Meanwhile, we return to Cortland, who is still trapped in a strange place with his father, Julian. Cortland feels frightened and unsettled. Julian berates him, saying, you've always been the weakest among your siblings. You're good for nothing. He makes Cortland serve him food and then demands, I need more food. Bring me some meat. Cortland looks around and realizes that all the food has been consumed. In a moment of desperation, he cuts his own hand and serves the flesh to his father. Julian begins eating the meat from Cortland's hand. Despite knowing it's a dreamlike state, Cortland feels trapped. Julian then declares, from now on, you will stay here with me and obey my every command. We also see Lasher, wandering the streets, rummaging through trash bins in search of milk to drink. Meanwhile, Rowan is at her home, gathering information about Lucy to figure out who she was. Suddenly, the spirit of Millie Mayfair appears and tells Rowan, I warned you before to kill this man, Lasher, but you didn't listen to me. Rowan replies, I have another way. He tracks the scent of Mayfair women and finds them, so I'll create a storm that will temporarily mask the scent that comes from the Mayfairs. We then see Moira at a bar, chatting with her friends. Sipin is also in the same bar and approaches Moira, saying, I need a few minutes to talk to you. Moira responds, I don't have time for this. Sipin insists, it's very important that I talk to you. Though reluctant, Moira becomes suspicious and says, this man might be from Talamasca. Sipin acknowledges this and says, yes, we also know about certain magical powers. Intrigued, Moira agrees to talk with him, and they sit down at a table. Sipin opens up about his past, sharing stories about his wife, how much he loved her, and how she tragically passed away. I still miss her every single day, he admits. He then asks Moira, what do you feel when someone stands in front of you? Moira replies, I don't know, but I can sense their mind. The two continue their conversation, diving into their thoughts and experiences, sharing more than they initially intended. Inside the house, we see Rowan standing by the window. Using her magical powers, she conjures a storm, and rain begins to pour heavily. Suddenly, Lark arrives and starts talking to her. He tells Rowan, I brought the blood sample reports with me. Rowan replies, you could have just emailed them to me. It's been 3 years since we last met. Just as she finishes speaking, the rain abruptly stops. Lark, curious, asks, what were you doing out in the rain? He's unaware that Rowan is a witch. Lark then says, aren't you going to invite me inside? Rowan hesitates and replies, now isn't the right time to come inside. Lark suggests, my house is nearby. If you want, you can come with me. Rowan agrees and the two start walking together. As they walk, Lark comments, your house is amazing, and it's so old. You didn't used to live in this town, did you? But then you found out your grandmother and great-grandmother were from here. The two continue talking and sharing stories as they stroll. Meanwhile, we see Daphne Mayfair in her room watching a movie. Her mother, Alicia, is home alone. Suddenly, Lasher enters the house. Alicia recognizes him immediately and says, you've come back after such a long time. I remember every moment we spent together as kids. All the Mayfairs used to sit and tell stories, and you were there with us. Lasher responds, yes, I remember everything. Back then, Lasher was still a spirit. Alicia admits, you were my childhood crush. Lasher replies, I can sense a wonderful fragrance coming from you. They become intimate, but moments later, tragedy strikes. Moira returns home and finds her mother, Alicia, lying still. At first, she thinks her mother is asleep, but then notices a pool of blood. Horrified, she realizes her mother has been murdered. Panicking, Moira immediately calls Sipin and says, come quickly, someone has killed my mom. Find out who did this. Rowan is still with Lark when she receives a call from Jojo. Jojo informs her that Alicia has also been killed and urges her to come home immediately. Rowan turns to Lark and says, I need to go home. I'll talk to you later. By the time Rowan arrives home, Sipin is already there. He examines Alicia's body and confirms that Lasher is responsible for her death. Now everyone knows the truth. Rowan, deeply troubled, walks to the statue of Cortland in her house. She realizes that only Cortland can stop Lasher because he knows everything about him. Determined, she begins the ritual to bring Cortland back to life. Cortland, meanwhile, is trapped in another realm with his father, Julian. As Cortland starts disappearing from that world, Julian angrily yells, you can't leave me. You'll always stay with me. But Cortland vanishes and returns to his original world. As soon as he's back, Rowan confronts him. Tell me everything about Lasher. Where is he? Cortland, feigning ignorance, says, how would I know? You should know better. Rowan retorts, you're the closest to him. You know all of his activities. She then reveals, I've read Catherine's diary. Some pages were torn, and they contained information about Lasher. You must have been the one who tore them out. Tell me where I can find him. Cortland denies knowing anything, but Rowan persists. Then you probably don't know that Lasher is killing Mayfair women. He hunts them down and makes them his victims. Cortland, defensive, says, I don't know anything about this. Frustrated, Rowan accuses him. You're a terrible person. You've done so many horrible things. Even your daughter is angry with you and will never forgive you. Cortland, guilt-ridden, admits, it's not my fault. My father made me this way. I became like him, but I'm sorry. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. Rowan coldly responds, now you will help me find Lasher. From this moment on, you'll work with me. She takes Cortland with her. Meanwhile, in the other realm, Julian, Cortland's father, is shown shouting Rowan's name angrily. The episode ends with Rowan emerging as the most powerful force, determined to stop Lasher at any cost. Lasher, who has been seducing Mayfair women, leaves a deadly trail behind him. Each woman he becomes intimate with meets a tragic end. The mystery now lies in who Lasher will target next. We'll meet again in the next episode, set to release next Monday. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. Until then, stay happy and take care. Thank you for watching.